Ladies and gentlemen, we've got an interesting show today. Waiting since 57. Adam, producer Stu. We're back after a wild week of football action. It's hard to be a fan. It's not easy. On top of it, I'm long sleeving it today. I was just basking in the sun of what apparently is the Redneck Riviera. I was visiting my folks down in Orange Beach, catching a little sun, exploding with poison ivy. My performance is enhanced today. Okay, I'm on steroids. It's not touching this thing. It's a beast, but we're here.
You've got the clear, you've got the cream, you've got like what was all the Barry Bonds rotation?
Yeah, man. Yeah, the clear. Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm sweating right now.
You got Bobby Bonilla back there sticking you with the needles.
Dude, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. The only thing that is comfortable to wear, because basically from the stomach up, I just have like these ravenous patches of anger on my body right now. And I feel like we're finally getting on top of it a little bit, but it is ugly. But it also speaks to the level of commitment. You know, when Stu and I wake up in the morning, you know, do you know what we're thinking about? Waiting since 57.
And I would say that Sunday, you're rolling around in poison ivy. You're just rolling around on the ground in it. Arguably, what I'm doing is worse, and I'm watching the game because I'm crashing out and I'm sending you text after text. I don't know that you chose instead. Well, there are lesser forms of punishment. Rolling around in the poison ivy is one of them.
Well, we had a good time out there, and I didn't even really see. I mean, I got some occasional score updates with much trepidation from my son, but I didn't really see much. But I did catch overtime, and I did go back. So last night I woke up at 1 a.m. as you do, apparently, wide awake. All roided out of my mind. Mm-hmm. And I did go back and watch the condensed game. So I did see every play because, listen, you know how serious we are about our hard-hitting takes here, our analysis on the pod. Expert level stuff. So I started taking notes. Stu and I worked it out, and we're gonna be breaking into it today. So yeah, it was a wild one, man. How did the whole thing leave you feeling, Stu? Where does it take you?
It was a roller coaster because I have expressed, on this format that I am a fan of Jameis Winston. What I did not want was Jameis Winston to come in and just like kick our teeth in, and he's out of control,
Jameis Winston may be the most likable player in the NFL. When he scored that touchdown where he stiff-armed Derek Barnes into oblivion, spins and then run on a touchdown reception, scores the touchdown, and then he leads what appears to be like a dice rolling celebration.
He did. It was awesome. It was the coolest selling, but I don't want him to do it at Ford Field. I would have been like you, shadow boxing against the wall at 1:30 in the morning for that, Sally, if it weren't in Ford Field.
Oh, dude, it was so good. But I mean, the dude's full of life. He's full of everything. Yeah, man, he's a joy to watch out there on the field. And we're gonna be digging in to Jameis here shortly.
This reminds me. Yeah, well, before we get into this reminds me, I read something that was like he just plays like YOLO football, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where this is like if you're in martial arts, there's nothing more dangerous than the guy that just like he doesn't care. Like he's got nothing to lose, so he's just gonna kind of like go all out.
There's no tension in the body, clarity of thought, and he's doing his thing.
Yeah, and it's great. It's just not great at Ford Field.
Well, he is known. So I've heard him categorized in two ways, kind of like the YOLO guy, kind of like the DGAF. He doesn't give an F. You know what I mean? He'll just throw it. You know what I mean? And there's a line. He's interesting as a guy that is like, I always want him to. I wanted to see him go to the Giants, and like before drafting Dart and whatever, I wanted to see him throwing the ball to Neighbors. Neighbors wasn't going to have 20 targets a game and 350 yards a game, but they were going to lose 14 games. It was going to be awesome. You know what I mean? Because Jameis just chucks it. Yep. But you hit me with a text as things were going on, and you had a fairly poignant question for me. Do you remember?
Hold on. Yeah, I'm sure I gotta. This is when I first started crashing out, probably.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me scroll back. If you remember what it is, I apologize.
Something along the lines of, why the hell is this happening?
Yeah, it is. Why? There were a lot of things. Well, actually, the first thing I said is, season is over, right? That's the that's the default go-to. That's the button. Every Lions fan, we've got the button that's right in front of us, and it's red, and it's always glowing. It's a slow throbbing glow that says, the season is over. Yes. And so I hit that button. Yes. But every week, though, for the last few weeks, I'm asking you to make it make sense, because I don't understand. I'm not smart. I'm not an analyst. I'm not crunching the numbers. I'm not, next gen stats. I'm not in it like that. I am kind of a meathead, knuckle dragging just fan that when things get too bad, I want to throw a sugar bowl against the wall when something's happening. I'm not Mike McDaniels, on my tippy toes, with vocal fry, that type of guy. That's not me. I just want to know what's going on.
Well, okay, so here's the big picture thing, and I do think it's tough when you see a team like the Giants with the record that they have, and with the injuries that they've had, and then just say, this shouldn't be happening. The Lions are good, the Giants are bad. Why is this game close, right? Mm-hmm. So let's dig into it and try to get past just some of the cliches, and like the any given Sunday kind of stuff. So when I'm looking at this game, there's a couple of things in my mind. Jameis Winston is always dangerous. And this week he was 18 of 36 for 366, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. If you jump back to last year, I believe he started 6-7 games. And his numbers last year were wild. And half of those games that he started, he posted 497 and 4 touchdowns, 395 and 2 touchdowns, and 334 and 3 touchdowns. He's like a crazier version of Baker Mayfield. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're two very similar dudes. They're wild. They're funny. Baker's not as funny or as crazy.
He's not even likable. No, he's not even likable.
Yeah, he's got a little bit more of an edge to him.
Yeah.
But both those dudes force the ball down the field. They're not afraid to throw the ball up in 50-50 situations. And that's one of the reasons why Winston is not a starter in this league. And it's one of the reasons why he can come in and throw for 400 yards against you. You know what I mean? So Winston is always a crapshoot. We could have got 180 yards and 3 picks off of him. It's always in play. It's always in play. But he's a good athlete, good tools, and he's willing to go for it. But it seems like every other game with him is either good or bad, and I think it's that consistency that keeps him in that backup role. He's a big time gambler. Go ahead.
What do you think would have happened if my guy Jackson Dart was in there under center? You think it would have been a much more conservative game?
Well, I think what would be interesting is they've got to start doing something differently with Dart. So from some of the stuff that I was understanding, that they were just going full hands off, like run whenever you want, designed runs. He was running the ball so much. I don't know if they weren't coaching him to get down or whatever, but you could see this kid is going to get killed.
Yeah.
Okay. He's super explosive. He's even more. There was a lot of data to show when he was coming out of college that, listen, it looks like, maybe he's going to be able to gain yards with his feet. But he's been producing on another level in the NFL. So even stepping up from what he was doing on the ground in college. And so he's super explosive like that, but he's taking tons of hits. And so with this coaching change going from Dable to Kafka, it would be interesting to see how big of a philosophy change that they would have with Dart. Because my guess is one of the reasons Dable is gone. Maybe somebody didn't like the fact that he was getting this kid killed out there. And maybe with that coaching change, they want to take a different trajectory with him because he's running a ton and he's taking a lot of hits. So getting to your question, I think it would be interesting if they're trying to keep him in the pocket more. You know what I mean? And his pocket numbers haven't been great. His passing numbers haven't been great. Really, what's been making him an explosive player is what he's doing on the ground. I think off the top of my head, he's rushed for in the neighborhood of 7 touchdowns on the ground, which is a ton, even for a full season. And he's been running with a limited slate. So, I think it would have been interesting. I think he maybe would have been forced to pass a little bit more. And when you zoom out on this, the bulk of the damage that the Lions took defensively came on insane trick plays.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't typical drawn up stuff, but the Lions definitely got caught up in it. And, when I went back and I was watching the game early this morning, I'm watching, they ran the ball a million times. The Giants ran the ball over 40 times, I believe. And so they did stack up some yards, but their per yard number wasn't great. And it wasn't like they were just moving the chains on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like they were getting some of these busted plays, these trick plays. So I was expecting the Giants to actually look better on offense, but we really did lock down quite well on defense. Jack Campbell continues to produce like at the highest level, like all the analytical stuff against the run, against the pass, all that stuff. He's probably going to be all pro bowler this season because he's playing out of his mind. But yeah, it would have been interesting. It would have been interesting if Dart were in there.
I love on X frequently somebody likes to dig up these old tweets of people taking shots at the Lions for that draft where they grabbed Jameer and then Jack Campbell, 12 and 18.
Yeah, I was gonna say 12 and 6. Yeah, it's 12, 16, 12, 18. Yeah. Because I knew it was in that range. And and we're gonna be digging into Jameer here a little bit later. But yeah, those are two guys that are obviously top tier.
Yeah.
Obviously top tier. And then, when you jump back looking at some of the weapons that they're throwing at, guys that are producing that you're like, who is this guy? I don't know how many people have Wandale Robinson on their radar. He posted 9 catches for 156 and a touchdown. Just a little background, 4th-year player. He was a former 2nd-round pick, so a lot of draft capital spent on him. They obviously thought he was talented. He's kind of had a reputation of being like one of these slot merchant guys because he has had a lot of production over the years. He had 14 targets in this game. I didn't punch it into the show sheet, but multiple times this year, I believe close to 6 times he's recorded double-digit targets. He's a close to the line of scrimmage guy. He's shifty. He can move. He can do these things. So it's not like that came out of nowhere, even though he's not a household name. Theo Johnson is another guy. He posted 3 catches for 77 yards, but it seemed like when I actually looked at his box score, I thought it was going to be bigger. Because it seemed like he made big plays in big play times, and it really stuck out to me. He's a younger guy who is a big-time athlete. He's a 2nd-year player. I don't know if you ever track something called RAS or Relative Athletic Score.
That's one of those like newer sort of, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a height and weight adjusted athletic measurable. And he ranked out at a 9.93 out of 10, which, is very high. So he's a big athletic dude. And he was making plays, so, when you kind of get into the whole thing where, how is this happening with the Lions, with this team that doesn't seem to be very good? New coach can always fire a team up coming off that transition from Dable. They're going to have new looks. The tape changes with a new head coach, right? And, to the Giants' credit, they knocked off the Eagles earlier this year. They've had a ton of close games with really good teams. And so it's not just like everybody's been blowing the doors off them. They do seem to be one of these teams that hang around, and more often than not, the wheels fall off toward the end of the game. But fortunately for us, we had apparently a field goal football that was controlled by joystick, and some things like that helped carry us through there. Were you still watching the game when that field goal went through to tie it?
No. So at some point in some of these games, I have to walk away, right?
Well, yeah.
Because
smart.
It's tough to, I want to be okay for the rest of the day, right? There's a little bit of self-defense. No, I actually had to leave and go pick up my son from work. So when I got to, I'm not going to say I was driving and checking the score on my phone, because I can't pick up the game on any radio around here yet. But when I got there, they had kicked the field goal, and I was like, holy crap. And then the next time I stopped, I was like, oh my God, what an end. I wish I would have been able to watch that.
It was crazy. It was crazy. And, so getting into the reasons, back into some of the stuff where it's kind of like, how did they end up pulling this off? What went wrong? What went wrong? Big pick. I don't think Goff looked bad. I mean, he was hitting some guys in the hands, and I counted, I think, at least 5 drops from pass catchers that would have been very big deals. First down. Kind of backbreakers that were dropped. St. Brown had at least 2. If you put those 5 receptions, and listen, every quarterback has drops, and so to say, well, it's the same way where people are like, if you take away Gibbs' explosive runs, well, it's like, well, that's part of the game too. But if you take that stuff away, one of the drops that St. Brown had was a terrible drop that popped the ball back up into the air and led to an interception. So I think Goff was sharper than what the stat sheet might imply when he wasn't getting immediate pressure up the middle. Graham Glasgow was one of the lowest rated offensive linemen for the Lions. I'm going to mispronounce his name, and I don't want to. It's not ayahuasca, but it's the fellow the backup fellow that's playing next to him on the left side, I believe. Just those guys were getting trucked, and a lot of very quick pressure up the middle. But I thought overall, I thought Goff looked fine. When you're not catching those, when you are dropping those first down passes, when you are hitting JMO on an explosive play and it's called back for linemen downfield, all that stuff hurts, and it makes things look maybe worse than it is. But yeah, I mean, to me, that was kind of the big picture, like how does that happen? In my mind, that's how that stuff happens, And
it kind of just keeps adding up. And some are saying that, in my house, we do not say anything negative or about Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah,
there are a few names that have that status.
Yes,
but some people have said, and I may have made this mention to you, when he did the dance, it's been remember, you don't remember the dance?
When he did the Trump dance? Yeah.
Do you remember what happened to the Tigers? I talked about this. Remember? I saw him do the dance. I was like, no, don't do that. Because the Tigers went on their collapse immediately after that game. He has, maybe there's a locker room prankster that's putting butter on his gloves, but
well, I tell you what, I've heard it, and I heard a whisper about something, and I heard something about him maybe being nicked up, and maybe it being about the wrist area or whatever. In my mind, the guy doesn't drop balls like this.
No.
He's not somebody that, he lacks concentration. And listen, sometimes players just drop a ball. That happens, because what he usually does is statistically uncommon, right? He's an outlier with how he normally performs. So yeah, sometimes drops are going to come, but it seems like within the last couple of weeks, and I do wonder if he's nicked up, because there's stuff that they won't list on the injury report if it's not going to stop them from anything. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me.
During that game, they talked about rhythm, and that part of me too wonders if rhythmically things have to kind of flow a certain way so that they kind of get in that groove with catching those balls, being on the same page, kind of that.
Well, and I do think there's something to that, because I've been kind of rethinking my thoughts on this have kind of been developing a little bit, because we talked about the play call changing, going from John Morton to Dan Campbell, and I think for a little while I kind of wasn't really giving enough credence to how much they lost 7 coaches this offseason. And so, especially when Dan starts calling the plays again, and they score 44 points, they're like, we're back, baby, stuff like that. But there's going to be some time of developing this out still, and it's actually one of the things that if you want to have a silver lining on this thing, their odds are still very, very high to be getting into the playoffs. Their odds are still higher than the Bears, even though the Bears are in first place. I think they're still at 74%. I think maybe the Bears have creeped up to 58, 59%, something like that. Obviously they have to finish out, but it's not like this team is peaking right now. You know what I mean? And they're grinding out some tough wins, and they'll always say, it's good. You need to get a win like this. And maybe that's true, whatever. And that can kind of just be kind of locker room talk as well. But, I do think that they're still going to be sorting things out. They had a ton of turnover at that space. And yeah, we're going to have the splash weeks where everything works. But what they want to be doing is they want to have this engine running smoothly all the time. And I think, the goal can be over the next several weeks, get that going in that direction, because, we always say hot and healthy come playoff time. And if they can get these things dialed in, I think they're still in a position where they can make real noise. But, the flip side is they can go 500 and miss playoffs. Yeah. I mean, it's always possible too. You know what I mean? But they do have some players coming back from injury. Yeah, and that's just kind of where
Kirby is Kirby coming back?
Not this week. Not Brad, but Campbell was saying that he could probably play this week, but they're trying to avoid one of those situations where you come back and just get re-injured again. It sounded like he was talking about one of those things where they want to be able to build up strength again to the point to where he could probably get back on the field, but he might still be like a little bit out of balance as far as, one leg being a little stronger than the other due to the due to the injury, and then wanting that to balance back out. Because the prime athlete I am. I've had a few surgeries over my life, and every time I get active again after that, it's the opposite side of my body that I hurt because you're compensating. So it sounds like it's one of those things they want to make sure that they're getting back for the rest of the season, or at least not in a situation where they're going to end up re-injuring this thing because his body isn't fully ready. So probably not this week. DJ Reed was back, which was nice. So we'll see. Hopefully we can get healthy and get rolling.
Malcolm Rodriguez was back too.
Rodrigo. Yep.
Kirby, I love him. He does this really annoying bit on X where every week, but he's funny, but every week he's just posting this picture of the white rabbit pointing to the watch. Every week he does this. Usually he'll quote tweet like somebody saying he's not going to play.
Yeah.
And fans are starting to like get upset now. They're like, dude, why? if you're not going to come back, why do you keep doing this to us?
Well, Stu, why don't you lead in the next topic for us here, brother?
Are we talking about
true or false?
True or false? Is Jahmyr Gibbs, is he the best running back in the league? I think he is, of course. I think, he is. But there are some people that say statistically, maybe he's number 2. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was rolling. I mean, going into this year, and we're both fantasy football players, fantasy football nerds, and Jonathan Taylor has been blowing it up statistically this year. And if you have him on your team, you probably have a very good team. And Taylor's been tearing it up. Recently, within the last few weeks, he's had some slower weeks and a bye. And so when you start talking about things like MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, where people are ranking those things, and that's not really what I'm talking about here as far as like end of year awards, but it kind of plays in. When people start off really, really hot and then they kind of cool off in a certain period, people can start looking in other directions. And, you have your premier running backs in the league, but I think Gibbs is really blowing up late the second half of the season. It's going to be really interesting to see how that conversation ends up going. In my mind, in 2025, Jahmyr Gibbs is the best running back in the NFL. Let's talk about it.
Does this finally put to bed the Bijan Gibbs?
Well, I mean, it can get into usage, right? And because Bijan is finding himself in the situation that Gibbs was in last year when he was more of a 50-50 back with Montgomery. And if you listen back to our earlier episodes, we also expected more of that split. But then we see that it was shading more toward Gibbs. But then since Campbell's taken over play calling, he's going wild with his usage. Okay. And so one of the things when you want to stack up how a back is performing, especially somebody like Jonathan Taylor to a Jahmyr Gibbs, it's going to be really important to, yes, you can look at their overall numbers, but dig into their usage numbers as well. So when you look at the Colts, Jonathan Taylor has 205 of the 293 rushing attempts, which is roughly just about 70% of all carries on that team. Jahmyr Gibbs has 155 of the 301. So Gibbs is getting about 51.5% of the Lions carries. So Jonathan Taylor is carrying 20% more of the offense. So he's getting 20% more opportunity. Okay. And so that's going to factor in when we look at his rushing yards, because Taylor has close to 1,200 yards. Gibbs is sitting at 950, even though Gibbs is averaging more per carry. He has less touchdowns on the ground. Jonathan Taylor has 15 to Gibbs's 10. But you can look at the way that they're used, and with Gibbs being used so much less on the ground, and to have their production be so similar, and to have Gibbs really ascending at this point, it really does make this case that Gibbs is the guy. Now, Gibbs outshines him through the air. Taylor, these are totally respectable numbers through the air for a running back. 32 catches, 268 yards, 8.4 yards per reception, 2 receiving TDs. Gibbs, 48 receptions, 379 and 7.9 yards per reception, 3 receiving touchdowns. It's going to be interesting to see how much love Gibbs gets for Offensive Player of the Year, especially if they're going in this direction. I didn't crack those numbers, but I believe Gibbs got around 80% utilization, or 80% of the backfield touches this week. And if they're going to keep him on this course, and I think they might, they're saying we need to get Demont more involved. I'm thinking I think what they mean when they're saying that is we need to be leading more We need to be in more positive game scripts for us. We need to be winning more so he can take more snaps. When you get into a game script like it was Lions-Giants where they're playing from behind, it's going to be Gibbs all day long. So this could be a little bit game script dependent, why Gibbs saw as much as he did. But at the same time, it's becoming so evident. And even listening to Campbell's presser after, he was just like, he's so explosive, you got to use him. Right. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, and we kind of talked about, we always talk about the explosives with him, but I listened to some interview time with Tashard Choice, the running back coach, who's a blast, by the way. You need to listen to his media sessions. He's fantastic. But he was talking about Gibbs and how he's getting better at the small things, not losing yards, getting the yards that are there when 3 or 4 are there, getting the 3 or 4 as opposed to trying to break it outside and losing yardage. He's getting really efficient on that stuff. And it seemed like every carry, even the ones that weren't like big explosive ones, he's quick to his spot. He's getting his positive yards. And he's just productive every time he's touching the ball.
He caught 11 passes.
Yeah.
You know, on Sunday. I mean, he's just kind of a check down vacuum, right?
Yes. And this goes, dude, this can go right into next segment, hot take, cold take. Hot take, cold take. This is, I'm not going to lie, this is a little bit of an opportunity for me to pat myself on the back. Because I felt good about a take that I had last pod to see it shake out. And this dovetails perfectly with that. So hot take, last week, we said, I doubt the plan is for Brock Wright to get 8 targets per game because Brock Wright is a fine backup. He's caught some excellent touchdowns for us. He's caught some first downs in the past. Nothing against him, but you want to be getting the ball into your playmakers' hands. And I did suggest maybe we're going to, and I said, Gibbs is one of those guys. How come we're not seeing him out in the flat more often? And then the week after he gets they're essentially running plays. Let's be real. That those weren't like these weren't like wheel routes where he's running off the sideline and stuff. This is get it out into space. It's a running play. It's a long handoff, right? And so that was my hot take from last week was we need to see if we can get him the ball more in that area of the field, especially if they're going to struggle with pressure up the middle. And I doubt Brock Wright is going to continue to see 8 targets because just from a talent standpoint, you need to be getting those targets somewhere else. You know what I mean? So that was my hot take. That's where I hit. But I tend to have some misses too.
So this is your hot take coming up. So this is what you're saying, right?
Well, my hot take that was me. That was my take that ended up being hot. It ended up being right. This is my take that ended up being cold. My take that ended up being cold was, Dano's offense has a knack for scheming up J-Mo. And then he goes and drops that turd burger on us again. Yeah. Now, now he had a drop, at least one. He did have the explosive that was called back. But I will say, no matter what, he gives some of the least enthusiastic media sessions. But he spent a lot of time talking about, apparently he's very active in the community. He's doing a lot of Thanksgiving stuff coming up. It seems to be a very laid back dude, but he was like, well, what was frustrating about that game? Because you weren't in the stat sheet. And he goes, nothing was frustrating. He said, we won. Now, I think he's probably that guy, but that also tends to be easier when you're winning. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you're the Giants and you're 2-8, 2-9, whatever, I don't know how long the attitude holds up, but they seem to love the guy. But yeah, that was a cold take from me, man. It seemed like they were turning the corner on that, and that we were at least going to be seeing the 6 to 8 targets a game for him. And it just wasn't there.
Jared Goff threw like 27, 28 times. Mm-hmm. And 20 of those went to St. Brown and Gibbs.
Yeah.
There has to be, and I think we've got some really good, receivers on the team. Like they're not punching up. I know Isaac Tesla is just a rookie, but they're not dialing up more for him or for JMO.
It was Amon-Ra and Gibbs had 25 targets out of his 42 dropbacks.
Yeah.
So that super majority of the offense is going there. And we are really seeing that offense condense up, right? Mm-hmm. I do think that's one of the interesting things, especially with Laporta being out. We're seeing this offense get very, very condensed. And then the only other person that had more than 3 targets was our man Brock Wright. He had 4. You know what I mean? But you can clearly say they're saying, hey, listen, we need to get the ball out of Goff's hands fast and to our best people. And that's what they're doing here. Because I do think that, I don't think that JMO is a more important weapon than St. Brown or Gibbs for this team right now. They just have so much depth in that area. You know what I mean?
So David Montgomery's under contract through 2027 season.
Yes.
Do you think he is here that long?
I don't think, and I could be wrong on this, but I think in the same way that they gave Jameson Williams a boatload of money, I think they love him, and I think they love David Montgomery, and I think they want the guy that can go in and carry the load if they have to. I think they want to have 2 of those guys, even they're not using them in a split backfield situation. When you go back and look at when Campbell was under the coach of the Saints, who's now the coach of the Broncos, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But they always had that 2-headed backfield with Kamara and then the other fella. But they would split time. And it's something that Campbell has really wanted to use here. And you can even see it, where they try to take it other places too. I think that Glenn has tried to use a similar backfield approach if they could ever run the ball there. But yeah, I do think that's something that he's very, very big on. I don't think so. I don't think he's going to be a cap casualty. I also don't think that you're going to find a lot of trade value in guys like that, and that's no slight to them. I remember when I was talking with our boys that are Commanders fans, and they were ticked that they traded away Brian Robinson and they got garbage for him. It's like that's the value of a 2-down back. That's the value of an average 2-down back, and there's nothing wrong with being an average NFL running back. That's amazing.
How many teams though would David Montgomery be the best back for?
Oh, I mean, he would be. I think there's a number of teams where he would just slot in as he's going to carry the super majority of touches in your backfield. Mm-hmm. If people are willing to pay for that, though, that's the other thing, because his contract is solid. It's not like position breaking or anything like that. It is solid. But my feel is they want to bring these guys in and keep them in. And we're going to start getting to that point where those concepts are going to be tested. Because we're stacking into those years now, right? My guess is that the last thing they want to do is move on from a guy like him, right? Because he's one heck of an insurance policy. Because if that O-line can get back to producing at a high level, I mean, he can put up very big numbers. I don't think he can put up the standalone numbers that Gibbs is putting up. I don't. I just think he's not as explosive, but he is. He still has all the tools. He's still very tough. And yeah, I think he's going to be around.
Frank Ragnos for taking down some nice looking deer, and he's getting some big fish. So things are going good for him. I mean, you don't really have to always let the team know before the draft like what you're going to do. That's okay.
Dude, I get the human element of it, and I respect it, but from a fan's perspective, it's a heartbreaker, because when that one came across the wire, because I follow very closely. When that came across the wire, my heart sank. Mm-hmm. Because that is, I mean, Frank is a top 1, 2, 3 center in the league. He's a guy that is completely in control of that line, understands protections, the communication. I think people can sleep on how crucial that is to be able to have that center that can understand the opposing defense so well and be able to communicate so well with the quarterback and the rest of the offensive line. It's a really, really big deal. It's a really, really big deal. And I'm going to be interested to see how the Lions approach this situation, because I don't think it's going to be Glasgow next year. And they have a number of young guys that they've been investing in, some that can kind of project up or down the line. I know a lot of people are going to want to see something splashy in free agency. They might end up getting mad. They might draft somebody there. You have to save money somewhere. And so if they can build an excellent offensive line through these mid-round draft picks and then develop them up, then they're geniuses, right? Because they can afford to pay for their skill players. But
Tate Ratledge has been.
Tate Ratledge, he's looked great, grading out super high on PFF. But I also wonder how much of that is the glow of blocking next to Penei Sewell, right? So if you look at that, so that's one of the things that I've been looking at is, so you have Sewell, who is probably the best offensive lineman in football, the best tackle in football. And if not, he's right in the conversation. And then you have Decker on the other side, who is he's getting older. He's been a great player for us, but always fighting through injuries, because that's what this game does to you. And hats off to him, because he almost never misses time. The dude is a warrior. He's a savage, but he's not Penei Sewell. So I think it's interesting. If we flip-flopped those two guys, would Ratledge be having the same numbers playing next to Decker, who's probably performing at an average level, compared to playing next to maybe the best tackle in football on the other side? Because that's that person that you're in communication with, and that's that person that can pick up some of your slack. You know what I mean? Having that big monster next to you. So I'm not saying that Ratledge is not having a good season, because he seems to be doing quite well. But I would actually like to do some digging into that. Like, how much correlation is there by the fact that he's playing next to another elite player? You know what I mean?
What a great opportunity, though, for a young guy to build his skill set playing right next to an awesome.
Yeah.
And then,
so I love that. I love that question. I love that.
And Christian Mahogany too, right? He's on IR right now.
Yeah, he got banged up, and it doesn't sound like, I don't remember off the top. It doesn't seem like they're planning on having him back anytime soon. I think the last I heard, he's not sure about the rest of the season. So that doesn't look good. And or at least it doesn't look great. And, the interesting thing with him was, Mahogany only had a handful of snaps last year. So he's a really young guy. So it's going to be interesting. They have Ratledge, and then they have Frazier. Frazier is the guy. He was their third, fourth, fifth round pick this past year. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's played anywhere from center to tackle to guard. And he is in his practice window right now. And when Campbell was talking about him, he's like, he said he's going to have 3 weeks of practice, and this is going to be his baby deer portion of the season, where like he's standing up, and he's standing up for the first time, like Bambi on ice. You know what I mean? And, he said, we'll see what he grows into. But I do think they do a good job with development. So it wouldn't shock me if they get a full healthy offseason out of him, and they feel as if they could have him at center or at guard, potentially at tackle, because you never know what happens. I mean, because Decker, these guys are close. You know what I mean? And these guys go through hell to get themselves healthy enough to play. And I know Decker and Ragnow are close. All those dudes were close. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And when you see your boy, and it always cracks me up when you see these guys stop playing football and they get so much smaller.
Yeah.
Just because it's so much nicer to not have to carry all that muscle and all that weight, because it's abnormal. You know what I mean? Like, these dudes are going to be big dudes no matter what, but they lean out a little bit. They look happy for the first time in their life. Mm-hmm. And they're just doing stuff, and they're 30. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's shocking that more of these guys don't go, Who's the quarterback for the Colts that left young?
Andrew Luck. Yeah.
It's amazing to me that more people aren't Andrew Lucking, man. The guy looks like $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he kind of looks like a little bit like a skinny dork, or at least compared to how jacked he used to be when he was a quarterback. But he looks like the dad that lives next to you that like runs 10Ks and stuff like that.
Right.
And he's just happy, like working for Stanford or whatever, wearing hats.
Yeah.
So it always blows my mind.
It is fun to wear hats.
People don't do that. It's fun to wear hats. And so I do think that this is part of the plan, though, where you haven't seen them throwing that. You've seen them throwing a lot of mid-round draft capital at guys they think they can develop. Because if you can land on that stuff, these are really expensive positions because the salary cap and for individual limits for or ranges for individual positions is skyrocketing across the board. But tackle and guard even are getting very expensive. So if you can lock these guys down on these rookie contracts for 5 years, develop them for 2 years, and then they're starters for 3 years on a rookie deal, dude, you're cooking from a cap standpoint, because you have to have room to sign everybody else, So I think that's what their vision is for it. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Speaking of that, do you think they back the Brinks truck up to Jahmyr Gibbs' place after the season?
Yeah, where is he at? So he's got, he's going to be one of the next guys. They kind of go through waves on where they're at. So it's kind of like Gibbs, Campbell, and Branch next. If what I'm remembering right from that draft class, that's probably going to be some stuff that we see. I think we can be guaranteed of the fact that they're going to be asked a lot of questions, and they're not going to talk about it publicly, either players or coaches or anything like that. We're not going to have a Jerry Jones situation.
Yeah. They're going to want to make that guy a Lions for life, right? A Lion for life.
I
mean, he's a future Hall of Famer.
He's
a bit hyperbolic, but
if he stays healthy, and that's always that's always a tough thing. But I mean, the stats that he's putting up, and every week, I swear we saw a highlight, and Peg saw it, and she was like, look how fast his feet are going, and look how slow the other guy's feet are going.
They're slow.
And I'm like, well, now I think he had another touchdown run where he hit 22 miles an hour, and I think he now has 3 of the top 4 fastest timed plays in the NFL this season. And I tell you what, man, and it's not the same thing because Barry juked in other ways, but he is making some razor sharp cuts, and they're really interesting. I'm not like a real expert on it, but a lot of times you see like the Madden cut where it's like full weight, and then the one leg goes all the way out, and then they go. He's doing like these jab cuts that are like closer into the body, and he is slicing dudes up in close quarters. Because a lot of times you can see where guys where Barry would break somebody down, and he would break them down 4 yards away, and then they would fall over. But I'm seeing Gibbs break down guys really close, in really close proximity, and it's just from a football enjoyment standpoint, it's so fun, it's so dynamic.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this game and like want to enjoy it, that's some of the stuff that you have to love. Just watching how individual guys break people down in a way other people don't. Like when Barkley, because Barkley, like when he had that insane hurdle last year and all that stuff, you just have to love those things, right? Yeah. And we really have to appreciate what Gibbs is doing right now, because it is one of those deals where, knock on wood, but he's fully healthy right now, and he's doing things that are absolutely electric.
3 touchdowns away from tying Barry for the youngest to, under 24, the most touchdowns under age 24. So,
and if you haven't seen the clip on the overtime touchdown, the great hole by the offensive line, and of course,
seen it 100 times. I've watched
it went to the right side. It went to the right side. I went to Ratledge and Sewell. Huge hole. I don't remember if he made a guy miss.
It wasn't even there until he got to it.
Hits the hole, and then he starts to break outside, and then Sewell just turns around and throws his arms up, and because he knew it was a touchdown, right? Vance going in the chat says the Gibbs fun factor is real and is always cartoon like that. It is. It's like his feet are moving like they're just like a circle.
Yeah,
and
like
they're just
the Roadrunner.
Yeah. But yeah. You know when he gets that edge, man, it's wild. So, but yeah, man. Yeah. What else? You got anything else?
No. I mean, we're on a high point, so I don't want to like take us down. I just worry that like, what do you think of tomorrow's game? Where are you at?
So, and listen, honestly, I feel like one of the reasons I started approaching, looking at football like the way that I talk about it on here is because I am really into the fantasy side, and it's more numbers based and everything like that.
But clinical, scientific, almost medical.
Well, but because it makes it easier for me. Right. And so like, because now I appreciate the game a little bit differently. And I'm still like, it still breaks my heart. Like, honestly, I remember last year when the Lions lost to when the Lions lost to Commanders, that was a team they shouldn't have lost to. If you play that, and that's no shade to them, if you play that game out 10 times over, 8 times out of 10, the Lions win that game. Vegas thought so. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, everything was there, and it ripped my heart out. And my son's a fan, and he's dying next to me, and he's trying to, because I want it. I want this to be fun. You know what I mean? And it is hard when you grow up loving a team, right? And so one of the reasons that I do look at things through this lens is because it does like make it easier, rather than saying, hey, the team sucks and they're done. You know what I mean? It's like, well, okay, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper and then see like if we can make some heads or tails out of this, right? So looking at the Thanksgiving Day game, I love the Thanksgiving Day game because I love the food we make. I love fall weather. I love it to be warm. I love the smell of the food. I'm a food guy anyways, if you can't tell, but like, I just love everything about that holiday. And like
it's leaves.
It's some of my best, like, honestly, yeah. One of my favorite fall things is like piled up wet leaves and that smell. And maybe that's gross, but I love that. Like the whole time of year, and then watching football, and just enjoying that day. So there's that just straight fan part of me that's like, man, that I really want to get
that stuff is
win.
Great.
I know
all that stuff is great. I'm not interested in the candy yams. I'm not interested in fall walks and the crisp breeze. What's going to happen tomorrow? Because I'm freaking out.
Yeah. So it's going to be short turnaround. Both teams, this might sound like a really easy canned response. Both teams are fundamentally different than they were at first game of the season, with injuries, with how the teams have changed over the course of the year, play calling, making adjustments, players moving up and down the depth chart. They're two different teams. So to say it's going to be the exact same thing, I don't think so. The Packers have picked up plenty of injuries on their side. I don't think, and listen, maybe Jordan Love is going to come out and torch us. I don't think that Jordan Love, he's been getting like supplementary love from the afterglow of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Like, I think in all reality, he's a very mid quarterback that has had one half of a season where he played like a top 10 quarterback, but he doesn't seem to be that guy that's carrying it, as people always like to say. Now, he can still come out and hurt you. They're weird at wide receiver, because they always seem to never have like a true number one guy. Devontae Adams was probably the last one, Jordy Nelson before them. But, for a long time, they don't draft a round one wide receiver, right? Them losing Tucker Kraft is a huge loss. It is a really, really big loss. With us getting a little bit healthier in the secondary, if we can get some stinking pressure on I don't know if Jacobs is playing, but I think we should be able to stop the run because we've been stopping the run all year. If we can keep get some pressure on Love. I think we could stick it to him. I think we could hand him a ton of points. Like that's the thing with this team. Like, I'm not saying they're going to drop 44, but if you told me that they won by 20, would I be shocked? No. If you told me that they lost by 20, I might be shocked. I might be shocked there. But if you told me, Green Bay won handily, that wouldn't blow my doors off either. But I do think, my gut's going Lions. And if you just listen to all my not a prediction predictions, I'm probably always going to say that. But
well, it's at home,
Yeah. It's at home. And it's also, I don't know, like, I think it's our thing. You know what I mean? I think, I don't know. They got the first one. They got the first one. We can get the next one. And there's a lot on the line. And one thing that I will say is,
they took it the year before.
Yeah. And I will say this, that I do think the Lions coaching staff gets their players in a position to play very, very well. I do think that from a preparedness standpoint, they do that well with their guys. So yeah. I'm hoping to not like be sweating too bad or anything like that, but yeah, it could be one of those games. But I want 21-0 at the end of the first.
Yeah, I want
at the end of the first quarter, not the first half.
Montgomery and Gibbs to both have touchdowns.
Yes.
When they both have touchdowns, they don't lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
How big is Romeo Dobbs' helmet going to be tomorrow?
Will
it be bigger than normal?
I think so. It's a big game. I think it scales based on the importance of the game. And I am also tired. Some of the worst, and listen, I'm not saying that the stuff that we say on this podcast is whatever, but I listened to another nonsense Lions podcast this week, and we just need to get away from the cliches. And it's always like this, biggest game of the season. This is the biggest game of the season. And I rewrote this article 3 times because if they lost, the season was over. And if they won, it's still a Super Bowl contender. And I'm like, I don't think that's the razor's edge. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's somewhere in between on this. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah. So anyway.
Yeah.
But that's my take. Do you want a numbers take? Do you want a score take? What do you say? Do you have a take?
Do that. Yeah, let's do that. I don't know. Sometimes we have been doing really well on big stage games.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They got the throwback uniforms tomorrow.
Could be.
Yeah, I think it is. I saw
the Unibros.
I like that. I still haven't lost with the alternate black uniforms yet. It's they're batting 1,000 with those.
What about the whites? When's the last time they've gone all white?
I don't know, but I do like that. I also want to see. I'd like to see the black uniforms, maybe with the gray pants too.
Yeah.
But no, I think I don't know. I think they're gonna buy a score tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm gonna say I don't even know. Actually, can you pull up what the total is on that game? On what it'll have like the over under, who's favored, and game total. If you can pull that up while I'm chatting about what my thing is. The Lions have been up and down. So this is gonna be my real take. They've been up and down. They've gotten JMO involved, not involved. They're still figuring out what they're doing in the wake of losing Laporta, and so they got JMO involved, and then the next week it was a bunch of stuff in the flat to Gibbs. You see them doing different things. You see them getting Amon-Ra St. Brown more involved. I'm going to say they've been trialing different things, giving different looks. I'm going to say that offense hits its stride this week. I'm going to say the Lions post 33 points and the Packers score 27, 33-27 Lions. We all go home happy. And that's my not a prediction.
So you're saying take the over, BetMGM is saying that 49 points.
Okay, 49 points.
Lions are a 2.5 point favorite.
Yeah, it's just a smidge. It's not even a field goal. It's a coin toss game. You know what I mean? It's a coin toss game, and they've not been looking like the world beaters, right? They've not been looking like the world beaters. And we kind of talk about, like, when are you peaking during the season? Maybe this is when the Lions start working their way back up. Some things start falling into place. Maybe they can be explosive on offense. That's the thing, because few teams like them can score like they can. So that's always one of those X factors.
Now, I did fade you last weekend with the Joe Flacco, pick for my fantasy team. I ended up going in a different route. I ended up playing.
How'd it work out?
I didn't look. Sam Darnold. I posted a monster score.
Wait. You weren't asking me him or Darnold. You were asking me him or
Shaw or Shaw, whatever.
Shaw, yeah.
But like, I decided to just go with Darnold.
Darnold would have been a great call. Oh, you balled out, dude. You dropped 225,
215. But the funny thing is, I did have Gibbs on my team.
Yeah,
and
that'll do it.
I still won by more than what Gibbs scored, so I could have got nothing out of him.
It's always a good feeling.
That's it's funny. It's 11-1 in that one, and my other league too. So
nice, dude. You're hot this season, man. You're running it out.
It's hot. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
We got K-Bob in the chat going Lions 34, Packers 17. I'd feel even better about that, man.
I like that one. I'll take that one all day long.
I'll take that all
Dial that one up for me.
Well, we'll see what we end up dipping into schedule-wise. We probably will have some measure of a Thanksgiving breakdown, but we've been hustling. It's holiday season, so stay tuned as far as when we'll be back in your ears. Other than that, you guys.
I think so. No, it's a lot of fun.
This is a lot of fun. I love this format. I love watching this thing come together. It was a lot of fun, dude. I appreciate you doing it.
All right,
everybody. Have fun. Eat some good things, spend time with your people, and hopefully we all enjoy Lions win. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.